What up, guys? We are recording it for the second time because I forgot to click the record button. So I will try to repeat everything like I said from the beginning. We went into like 50 minutes or something like that. But today we got another quick podcast, and with me there is like Face.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, what's up? We've been also talking about his fresh haircut. As we can see, he's been to the barber, and he's looking great today.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
As I said, I didn't go to the barber because I'm wearing like I'm covering my head with the hats like during the winter, so I'm just not going because I'm lazy. But anyways, let's jump back to the subject. Today's subject is kind of something interesting because we're gonna be talking about tilting uh, within pro players on pro scene. We're gonna focus on the pro players mainly this time, and we're gonna talk about all kind of aspects of bad emotions, not only tilting and getting angry, but as well like choking during the games, during important moments when you are also when you are getting stressful, and all kind of emotions which are you are familiar, especially if you are a 1v1 player and you are a Quake player. I think that's the problem for majority of us. Some of us just show it, some don't, and we're gonna discuss this subject. So I wanted to start with myself because I know this is the weird thing because sometimes I get the impression that people are getting like shy or they don't want to speak about their emotions. They don't feel comfortable speaking about it out loud. So I just wanted to start with myself and then go to the face and then we're gonna like discuss all this. All the players, pro players, and how does it look like on our scene. So, for example, for myself, I never had a problem with being like stressed or like nervous, or I didn't have anxiety during the games because as soon as I started playing, I kind of understood like that it's not gonna help me, and I need to focus only on my game. If I'm gonna focus on being stressed, it's gonna be only worse. And somehow it worked in my young mind, and I stick like this. But of course, in the beginning, I had a lot of problems with being like angry at some situations, at myself, at the game, at everything around what was happening in the game. So I had problems with like screaming, or for example, I hit something and like my mouse or the table, but I reacted really, really fast. So I also killed it in myself like very fast. So as soon as I hit my mouse, I sat down and I said, "Listen, like it's not gonna work out if you're gonna hit your mouse every single game, because every single game something not gonna go your way. You are just climbing up, you're learning, you are like getting your skills. Like you cannot hit your mouse or table every single time because you're gonna destroy everything, and it's not gonna lead you anywhere." And it also somehow worked, and I kind of killed this like frustration in myself like completely. Like nowadays I also got moments when I'm angry, but I'm usually angry only after the game, like, and it's also specific games like tournaments, LAN tournaments, when I like get off of the stage and I'm thinking like I fucked up this like really big hard, and then I'm kind of regretting it and I'm overthinking and I know I did wrong, and I'm like kind of getting mad at myself, but it's only after the game. I know there's basically there's no time to tilt during the game because like this is a very fast-paced game. If you're gonna start to tilt and think about something else, you're gonna straight away miss timings, miss like sounds in game, like you're gonna be outside of the game. So that was the problem for me, and I managed to like deal with it because I was young, I think, and I started very early. And what's your basic story and how does it look for you,
I
Face?
mean, I'm going to touch upon the subject that you just mentioned before I even get to myself. And I think it's very good to look at the fact that you started very young. And I think when you are younger, there's less things that you have to worry about because you're a kid. You don't really have many responsibilities.
Hmm.
Well, for most kids, they don't have many responsibilities. And I think it's a very, very healthy environment to start as a kid, trying to compete professionally because of that reason. And I think, as kids grow up into young adults and then into adults, in our society at the moment, we are learned to suppress our feelings because it's let's say about men, like, you know, a lot of people are taught that, men are not supposed to show feelings because it's not manly. And I think that becomes a problem because then when you suppress all those emotions, sooner or later they're going to start coming out, whether that's in games or in real life. And I think it's very unhealthy to be trying to suppress your emotions. And I think it's okay to tilt as long as you understand why you're tilting and you're trying to fix this. I
Hmm.
think that's the most important part. For myself, I started competing in 2017. I if I remember correctly, I was 18, so I was already getting into the young adulthood,
Hmm.
and already starting to have a lot of responsibilities, and I think a lot of things that were happening in my life were affecting me. I think by the time it was like 2018, 19, 2017, I was already starting to tilt, and
Hmm.
I think that was a lot to do with the fact that I started playing with you guys. I was, coming from I was a nobody, and then suddenly in 2017, I have the chance to play with you guys. Obviously, not on the same level as you play, but climbing, let's say, climbing that ladder.
Hmm.
And I think it was a lot of that was my ego, and I think
Hmm.
understanding that I was part of this community, this professional community at this point, that I'm able to compete versus some of you. I think that started like in my head. I started feeling, I'm really good. I'm really good. And I kept on telling myself that I'm really good. And sometimes it
Hmm.
was like, oh, actually, I'm better than this player. But,
Hmm.
I still lose against this player. So
Hmm.
now, I think that I'm better than him.
Yeah.
But then, but I still lose. So clearly I'm not. And I think it was that battle in my head is like figuring out why do I feel like that and like where is this coming from? And I think a lot of it is to do with like I have a very competitive mentality, but I also in games I have a really hard time in duel specifically. I'm
Hmm.
I'm talking specifically duel, not team mode. In
Yeah.
duel, I have a very
We're
hard
gonna jump
time.
back to the team modes later because I
Yeah,
also want to compare it because it's two different kind of
two different games.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in duel, you have to take responsibility, and I think
Hmm.
you have to be very mature to look at what you do and be like, okay, I fucked up. I did something wrong, and my
Yeah,
opponent
because
did
you don't
something
have
right.
excuse in team mode. You're always gonna blame, like majority of players gonna blame their teammates, and that's it. And they don't have responsibility.
Yeah.
They don't have excuse, so they are fine. They are free with their mind,
Mm-hmm.
because they cheat their brain, kinda,
Exactly.
to they explain themselves. Everything's good with you. It's just like, and in one
Yeah.
v one, what can you do?
It's exactly.
Nothing.
It's just you. It's
Yeah.
if you messed up, you messed up, and there's nobody to blame unless you're like me and you start blaming your opponent.
Or
And I
the
think
game,
that's
or like, you're
exactly.
finding different reasons, but it's,
Yeah.
I think it's nature of the human to just like to not hurt your like mental state, and you
Mm-hmm.
always look for the reasons. So, even if there is some traumatic experience in your life, I've read somewhere, you always gonna look for a reason that maybe it happened on some purpose. That's why we have religion and things like this, because it makes
Yeah.
us our mental state more healthy and easier, that there is something above us that has control, because if
Mm-hmm.
we take all the responsibility, it's super hard for us to be able to live with that, I think.
Yeah, and it all goes back to just like dealing with your feelings and understanding what's actually happening in your head. And I think for me, I think to this day, and I said it in my last tournament that I'm done competing in duels because
Hmm.
I don't feel like I'm growing as a jeweler. I
Hmm.
think that I've hit a certain threshold for myself, and at this point it's all in my head, and unless I manage to break that, which I don't have the time, unfortunately. Like I work full time,
Hmm.
I have family, and it's like it's very hard to put all the time into trying to fix something when ultimately that will then transfer into me spending so much time
Hmm.
doing that I'm going to start not focusing on the things that are actually important in my life.
Especially
And
that, I just wanted to add that
no, of course.
the more you are in certain state of the mind, or the more you are going into some routine, the harder it is to get out of it. So even simple things in our life, if certain people just always ate cereal on the breakfast, that's why diets are hard for people, because they don't like to change their routines. And that's why, like, for example, if you're a night owl and you are like waking up very late, it's very hard for you to wake up early and things like this. So if you are in a state of mind when you are tilting all the time, if you let it go for years, you need years to reverse it. If you let it
Yeah.
go for a few days and you react fast, as me, I literally get rid of this shit like feeling and wanting to hit something or scream or behave like an idiot in front of PC. Like literally in few days, because like it was embarrassing, because like I started to scream or like do say shit things, and then I got people around me, because we played in internet clubs, like looking at me like at some fucking madman, and I'm like, Jesus, dude, like be normal. That's why I managed to kill it. But nowadays, when kids are playing inside the room, they got cool, like, walls, like soundproofs and shit like this. They can go ham, throw out PC out of the window. You got compilations on YouTube, people like punching monitors. It already went too far. It's like so hard to get back from that point. So the more you let off your leashes, the harder it's like to go back on track.
Yeah, and it's very important what you said about the fact that it's like with anything. Think of it like a bad habit, right? If you
Hmm.
had a bad habit that you've been doing for a couple of years, let's say even playing a guitar, and you have a bad habit of holding the fretboard, for example, is like for you to now unlearn all of that will take either the same amount of years, or if you really focus hard, maybe a little bit less, but it's still something that will take a long time to change because it's embedded in you. And I think at that point, what could be also smart is that if you are unable to put that time into trying to fix that, there are some workarounds that work really well. I mean, for example, like me and Avik were speaking about it for a long time. It's not a subject that we just suddenly started speaking about. It's
Mm.
something I dealt with, and Avik was trying to help me, and Rafa as well. And I think like the biggest like the way that I cheated my mind into trying to reset myself. I think it's important that
Hmm.
if you do tilt, you try to reset yourself because
Hmm.
there's no point of like then trying to think of like why am I getting mad? There's no point of doing that
Hmm.
during the game. You just have to reset yourself. And I think what helped me really reset during the games, even though I tilt to this day in duels, but I can
Hmm.
reset now a lot easier, is focusing back on what is happening on the map and the
Hmm.
timings. And I think like in
Yeah.
Quake duel specifically, if you tilt, it's okay to let it out, but as long as you can reset. And I
Hmm.
think that's what Rafa does a lot. It's like you can hear Rafa
Yeah.
like getting mad at things, and that's natural, but he resets himself straight away
Yeah.
and then he focuses on the next thing that he needs to do. And for me, that's timing. And it's like if I start focusing on timing, even if I get mad, then I don't have the time to focus on getting mad.
Yeah.
And I think it's replacing one thing with another that then will help you reset. And it's like it needs to be instantaneous.
Hmm.
Otherwise, if you let it happen for longer than you're supposed to, then it will just spiral into you losing focus, you tilting more, and you losing the entire. For example, if we're talking specifically duel in Quake,
Hmm.
you losing the track of the player and the items on the map, and then you just
Hmm.
are in a position where like it's gonna be extremely hard to get into the game again.
Yeah, because if we talk, if we speak only about tilting, like there is some players, we're gonna go through all the pro players, and there is some players who can tilt and still play good and even win events while tilting. Like for example, Rafa or Kilson, right? Kilson, like
Yeah,
of every single frag, Kilson losing, he's like fuck this, that. He's screaming. He's like all in the game. He's very, very energetic, but he
yeah.
still focuses on the game. He just automatically resets. It's like one scream and he resets and he's back to the
Mm-hmm.
game. And for some people, it's completely like destroying it. But we're gonna jump to it a bit later. So, speaking about okay, so you never ever had like a problem with being stressful or nervous during the games either, right?
No, so
Or
no,
joking.
I do get stressed out. So it's like again, it's a mode that really forces you to be your own
Hmm.
person and your own man, and there's nobody else there to support you.
Hmm.
So if you make a mistake, then it's all on you, and whether you blame yourself or the player, that becomes a stressful situation because angry emotions create stress.
Hmm.
So those two things go hand in hand, and for me, even if I'm not getting mad, the stress levels still
Hmm.
go raise up, and you can feel it just because like
Hmm.
you can feel your heartbeat
Yeah.
quite easily during
Yeah,
games.
because
At least
what
I
what
can.
I mean is like if you're getting stressed like during the game, like if you're getting anxiety, if you're like just nervous like before the game, for
Hmm.
example, you got important game and you are kinda, stressed and nervous and you are scared to play and things like this because there's also very easy fix for that, and I
Yeah.
also spoke about it with two people who really helped me with that, and it was like There was one player from Ninjas in Pajamas back in the days in CS, Z, and we were going by the one bus to some tournament, and it was one of my first big events, and he was like, "Dude, you are so young. How old are you?" And I'm like 15, and he's like, "Are you stressed?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm super fucking stressed. It's my first tournament. I'm so stressed that my hands are shaking." And he said, "Okay, I'm gonna ask you just one question. So, look, you're gonna go play tournament. If you're gonna be stressing out, is it gonna help you with the outcome of the results like in a positive way or not?" And I said, "No, it's not. I mean, it's gonna have impact, but in a negative way." And he said, "So you see, stressful is like pointless. Like there's no point to stress because either you stress and you're gonna get worse result, or you don't stress, maybe you're still gonna lose, right? But it's gonna give you the better results. So just focus not on the results because result is stressing you. Why we are stressed? We are not stressed that we're going into the match and we're gonna miss time item. Nobody's stressed about it. But we are going to the match, to the important tournament, and we are stressed that we're gonna lose the game. So if you are not thinking about losing or winning the game, it's the key factor. And the guy who made it even harder impact on me and made me believe in this was actually cooler because he said like, man, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, because what matters is that you're gonna play your best game. If you're gonna play your best game, focus on
Yeah.
timings, on reading opponent, hitting good, and everything. And if you're gonna lose, okay, you lost because the guy was better. There is no point to stress if you win or lose. Like, what's gonna happen if you lose? They're gonna cut your head off? No. Somebody gonna kill you? No. Your life gonna continue. Next day you're gonna go and do this and do that. That's why he said also very important thing, and I spoke about it with some people. Like he said that you always need to have many like incomes in your life, not only financial but like
Yeah.
mental. Like so you need to have few like roots where you're getting your finances from, not only from Quake, but have a Quake. Invest in some like in anything what you want to invest nowadays, crypto, maybe not now, but like gold, coal, like you can make money on crisis, like people getting rich now because of the crisis, right?
Yeah.
You can play Quake, you can do your own business, you can invest in real estates. I'm investing in real estates. So you need to have like three, four, five different financial outcomes, incomes to be easy. Then you need to take care of your family, then you need to take care of your health, you need to go to gym, and then you are fully human. So if you're gonna lose the game in Quake, if you got five other incomes, it's not touching you at all. It's not touching you at all. You just want to show your
Exactly.
best game. So
And
I
I think that
understand that if there is
yeah.
some players who only go full, like all in Quake, I can understand why they are tilting maybe because it's like only one of the income. I mean, not only tournament money, but they got sponsor money, it's like organization money, some bonuses for like games in QPL. Like some people are streaming and making some money, but still, like it's like kind of one like esport income.
Yeah, it's like a bubble, and I'm glad you've mentioned that because for me, in a funny way, it was a very similar situation to what you just mentioned at the end. It's like when I was like 18, 19, that was 2017, 18. Uh, I put everything into competing quick. I At that point I didn't have a job because I wanted to focus full time into playing quick and streaming. And it didn't happen until later on, like 2019, 20, where I was like, well, this is not working out. I'm not earning money. I'm unable to like. I got qualifications to earn money, and that is not a problem. It's just that I'm putting everything into this game, and because of myself, I'm not getting anything out of it.
Hmm.
So now that creates even more stress and that
Yeah.
creates even more tilting for me. And I'm like, man, what am I doing in my life? If I'm getting angry at the game because I'm trying to compete so hard and I'm not making it, I'm physically and mentally not making it. I think it's time for me to try to look out for other opportunities. And that's how I started doing graphic design and video editing. Like, but funny thing is like I didn't have the money because I was playing Quake and I was trying to make it a pro, uh, and I was trying to stream, but I didn't have an overlay. So I was
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna design my own overlay because I don't have the money to pay for that.
Hmm.
So I was like, that's how it started. And I think when I got the jobs, the two jobs that I was working at, like things became so much easier, like you said, because I had all the other things that I can focus on. and know that if I don't make it in Quake, that's okay because I have stability in my life.
Mhm.
And I think that took a lot of stress away. Obviously, I carried on tilting, again, not as much. And I think another thing that really did help is stopping to eat junk food and just being trying to be healthy, like physically healthy. I'm not talking about just going to gym. I'm talking about eating healthy and
Mhm.
because a lot of us just sit at home, we have a lot of deficiency when it comes to
Mhm.
vitamins, for example. And I think that's another thing that does impact people is like the lack of certain vitamins affects how your brain works and how your body
Mhm.
works, and that often can translate into you having mood related issues or stress issues,
Mhm.
which can be fixed by supplementing yourself with vitamins. I'm not saying that people have to.
Mhm.
People always have to go to the doctor and check if there is any
Mhm.
problems with that. uh, but in terms of what helped me, for example, I think it's a combination of what you mentioned, having the stability in your life that you don't have to worry about if you mess up in the game or not. I think it's just having those different venues that you can go into will free up a lot of your mind to just focus on things that really matter. And
Mhm.
if you fuck up in game, that's okay. It's okay
Yeah.
because you don't have to. It's not gonna affect your life. It's just a game. And even though it's hard to say it's just a game because a lot of people want to compete and be the best that they can
Mhm.
be, but
But it's the best
ultimately,
approach.
yeah,
It's the best approach. As we
yeah.
said, cheating your mind, even if it's like very important, it's in the end it's just the game. There's like many important things in your life which you need to take care, and you shouldn't like care about winning or losing. You should only care about showing your best game. And yeah,
Exactly.
about what you said, going to doctors, like I recommend everyone. We are living in 2000 fucking 22, guys. Like go at least 2 times per year and check your
Yeah.
like general blood test. It's already gonna show like a lot of things. Like it's not gonna cost you much, but you are investing in yourself. So just check it twice a year and it's enough. And especially like I'm doing it because I like to go to gym and I like to do some sports and things like this, so I'm active. But especially guys who don't do anything in their lives, they're just sitting behind the PC, they should actually check it, you know?
Yes.
Like majority of like citizens in Europe or even all over the world, like they got deficit of vitamin D and nobody knows about it. And vitamin D is like it's big factor in like diseases like depression, for example. If you lack vitamin D, like same like with people who live in Scandinavia and they're not getting enough sun and vitamin D, they are more sensitive to like to becoming depressed or like having problems with that. So.
No, 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 exactly. And a small example that I can give on myself is like before I started competing, I was a very healthy person and I had blood checks done every year once, so not twice, but like every year, and I never had like any deficiency. It
Mhm.
was only when I started like compete and actually just not really go out much out of the house and just trying to really focus on gaming and not doing much else. That's when I started having a lot of problems. And I have a huge deficiency in vitamin D, for example, because I
Mhm.
don't go out much. I
Yeah.
mean, I do go out a lot more now that I've like stopped competing, but like
Mhm.
it's just like it's very important to like go outside, be active, eat well, take vitamins. It's not you're not doing it for other people. Like even if you go to gym, you shouldn't go to gym because you want to look good for other people. You should go to the gym or be active for your own health
Mhm.
because that affects everything in your life. It doesn't just affect one side of the of things. It affects everything that happens, and I think it's very important to just be as healthy as possible. And healthy brain, healthy body, it means that you can actually compete really well and have an even better focus in games.
Mhm. So if we take esport as a like professional sport like football or anything else, we see how it grew over the years. Like back in the days, like let's say even 10 years ago, like nobody, no organization, even biggest organizations, they didn't have like mental coaches or like psychologists, right?
Hmm.
I remember like Virtus Pro hired first psychologist in only in 2017, I would say, which is super late because it's like only 5 years ago, right?
Hmm.
And I remember one of the Polish CS guys said that maybe if they had this psychologist 2 years like earlier, maybe they would still be able to play entire one CS till now, because
Yeah.
like he helped them tons. And like I understand that because I had few sessions with some psychologists. I had like one in Virtus Pro, I had one or two in like Endpoint, and I understand if somebody has really big problem and he believes it's a problem, then a psychologist can help you. And I think like nowadays everybody has psychologists. Like even like individual players have it's not only like financial help from organizations. So it's not only that you're getting paid, but you need to have covered everything else. Like you got psychologists, you got all the help, you got proper food on tournaments, on boot camps, on tournaments. Now we got caterings. Like whenever we go to tournaments nowadays, like you need to fill the check if you're allergic to something, if you want specific
Yeah.
food, everything. Like nowadays, everything is up to you. So if you are vegan, you go into the tournament and you got like cook who cooks you a vegan like food. It's like normal nowadays. Like before
Mm.
that, there was nothing like this. That's why maybe in games like CS, esport grew so much, and we're seeing like such big level of play from like for example from Simple or other like
Yeah.
top players now in CS.
No, and you make a great point because I think, and I always thought that esports should be just treated like sports, exactly the same. No difference. You should always have somebody, you know, like you said, people just started introducing psychologists, like sports psychologists, into the world of gaming, like 2017. Maybe some teams did it earlier, but like you don't really hear about it until like you've mentioned 2017 and onwards, and it's like why doesn't every single esport game invest into the same infrastructure that the sports have? Obviously, it's money. It's a lot of money to invest into that. But like, I think it should be a priority. Just to make sure that the players are playing and living in a healthy environment, because that will then translate into them performing well and then having less issues in and outside of the game. And as you've mentioned in VP, like the guys said themselves, if they had the coach earlier, they might have been still playing together today and
Yeah.
performing really well. And it's like that's a huge thing for an esport player to admit to, and I think that just shows how important people like that are in our lives. And I know some countries, like people are unable to afford psychologists or people that can help them out with certain things. But there's a lot of resources online that people can read up on, and if I'm not mistaken, there's like a really great guy on YouTube. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna quickly look him up. I think it's Dr. K. I think that's
Hmm.
what he's called, Dr. Healthy Gamer GG. So
Hmm.
he explains essentially, you know, all of our lives and how we should be dealing with things if things are going wrong or not. And he
Hmm.
explains everything on a scientific level, but he also makes it a lot of thought. Like he makes it fun to learn with him.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of my knowledge, at least, that I have about you know how to deal with yourself is coming from him. And if people are interested in human psychology, and not necessarily that is related to gaming, because he does all the other content, I think people should definitely give it a go because it's very informational, and he gives a lot of he's not beating around the bush. He says it how it
Hmm.
is, and it definitely helps a lot of people. I mean, the guy is getting like a couple of videos, a couple of million views,
Hmm.
hundreds to a couple of million views. And clearly you can see it in the comment section that people are really they're thanking him for the help because he helped them with something.
Hmm.
So if
We're
people don't have
definitely
the
gonna
resource,
try
yeah,
to link him in description,
yeah,
down below this video, because I think it's important for people. I also wanted to say like big shout outs to all the organization which have like psychologists and mental coaches, especially Endpoint now. You need to understand the market. You need to understand what's very important. If organization is investing in like mental or a coach or psychologist, it means they understand the market and they understand what is good for their players. Like, because I'm not sure, maybe in some titles here, like when we'll be editing this video, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but I think we got like psychologists in Endpoint full time. So basically you can get some help like anytime you need, and we got like a CS lineup and many players. Like there's many people working for Endpoint at the moment, so we might also maybe link some social media contact to our psychologist if you guys need any help or something like this. But yeah, so we already touched the team mode and 1v1, and it's hard because I think in both in both like scenarios there is some kind of like bad emotions. It's just kind of different, and you
Hmm.
deal with it differently. Because for example, if you are getting like tilted in team mode, maybe it's not as bad as it is in 1v1, but at some point, like if you are getting tilted in team mode, let's say in CS on Quake, then like you kind of giving your mood to your teammates. So if
You're
you are
affecting
angry,
people.
you're
Yeah.
affecting your teammates, and it's even worse because then like whole team
Yeah.
collapse. So now imagine like getting like really super five good people and just find five people who never gonna argue with yourself with themselves, or they will be able to work together. This is much harder than being a 1v1 player and just dealing with yourself and only with your nerves. And now like one guy is toxic, another guy is like, maybe shy, and he's not tilting, but when you're gonna like give him some critic, then he's gonna take it bad and play worse. And then it's so many factors come into that because you have five different people and you can like have a bad impact on them. So especially in such game, I think psychologists should sit with them on a team voice and analyze what is the atmosphere, because he can feel it. Like he can feel like this guy is super toxic, he's loud, like you can critic him but he's gonna argue back and things
Hmm.
like this. And this guy is super chilled, and if you're gonna argue him, he gonna close himself, he not gonna tell. Like maybe later he has a great idea, but he will be like, okay, I'm not gonna speak my mind because maybe they're gonna think that it's like
Yeah.
foolish or something like this, and it creates like million of problems. So I think I don't know which one is worse, like team mode or 1v1, but
I think, in my opinion, if you are affecting people negatively, that is much worse than affecting just yourself.
mhm,
Because no, you're not only affecting yourself, but you're making someone else's life miserable
mhm,
by affecting them in a negative way. And I think when it comes to like team modes and teammates disagreeing with each other, I think that this is the reason why we're seeing a lot of shuffles in CS teams in Valorant. It's
mhm,
like you have to, in my opinion, you have to have a chemistry with the players that you're playing with. I
mhm,
think this is the number one thing. It's like you don't have to be the best players in the world, but if you work really well together and you can rely on each other, and you have the chemistry that like you said, you can tell your teammate, after the game that they messed something up, all during the timeout, and they're like, okay, cool, I can work this out. I'm gonna switch this, change this. It's like as long as there's this communication between players and teammates, I think that's where the healthy environment comes in. And I think if there are people in teams that are actively negative and toxic. I mean, there are certain big CS players that I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but like if people watch CS scene, then
mhm,
they probably know who I'm talking about. It's like
mhm,
the guy went through many different teams because people didn't want to play with him
mhm.
until he found the right team to play with,
Yeah.
and that just shows that like everybody has their own place to play
Mhm.
with, and it's just the chemistry between players and egos that can affect that
Yeah, because it
negatively.
was enough to have a one guy in the team who he was like respecting really much and he was listening to in the beginning, and he
Yeah.
kind of directed him in the right way so he could still like behave normal even after that guy left that team. So
Hmm.
it's like as you said, it's like right teammates and like right chemistry. I think that's why it's so hard. That's what I mean. That's why it's so hard to collect five people, because you need to
Yeah.
go through so many like variations, and sometimes you kick someone and actually that wasn't a problem. And it also like it also was the case like in CS, like with Carrigan for example, or like with many, like Zeus also, like he went out from Navi and he won the major with Gambit later. So
Yeah. And I think it's just like it's just very important to then have people like sports psychologists, coaches, managers to be there and notice those issues, because
mhm,
ultimately the players can argue with each other, but it's the the coaches, the managers, the psychologists that ultimately decide the fate of the team.
mhm,
And it's very important for them to notice those issues and either try to fix them straight away, or unfortunately for the player, they will have to get benched and probably moved around and get another player to come in. And it's like
mhm,
ultimately it's just for the better. And there's a lot of teams that do reshuffle the players in Valorant and CS, and it's like there's a lot of critique about them changing the lineups all the time, but they're
mhm,
not changing the lineups of the teams just for the sake of it because they find it fun. It's
mhm,
in order to secure themselves a team that can communicate well and do really well. And what it's people don't expect them to do really well straight away, but they need to gel together in order to do well later on. And
Mhm.
it's just that simple. And that comes back to the fact that, like, I think it is worse to be a team player and having somebody negatively affecting everybody, because, like I said, duel, you can just be critical to yourself, and nobody else is going to hurt. But if you are going to be toxic to other people, then that affects everybody else in the team, whether that's
Mhm.
2v2 or 4v4 or 5v5, depending on the game.
Mhm. Okay, so we spoke that you can always work on yourself and you can always improve and try to stop tilting and having better emotions. Do you think it's more actually working part or it's more like personality? Because we got people like Ron, for example, or Silence App. Those two are super chilled. Is the chillest guys I ever played with, like in team modes. Like to make Ron angry, I don't know what I would have to fucking do, and I tried many things because
Impossible.
I'm kind of more, energetic in 2v2 than him, and I'm like more hot blood and things like this. It's impossible to throw him off guard. He's like always very chilled. Everything's cool. Like, so it must be some part of personality, because like I
hmm
don't know. So what is more important, working on yourself or personality? What you think it is about?
I mean, again, it's both. Some people, like you said, like put on silence. Some people are just they just have this kind of persona that I don't know them on a personal level of that kind to be able to tell whether they are suppressing any emotions or whether they are genuinely just chilled at every single time. But, like, I think you will have some guys with personality like that who are just chill and they don't really have to work a lot to fix any like mental issues, because clearly if they're so chill and they're performing well and they never really rage. I mean, I've never heard Silence Up Rage and I've never heard Hron Rage ever
No,
in my life.
no.
And it's like I think it's just like you have those people, but you also have people that unfortunately do have those issues that they have to deal with, and it's very
Yeah, and
important to work on them.
there is also a little different aspect because it's tricky situation because you got people like Ron and Silence App, but you also got people like Raisy who seems like chilled all the time. But you can straight away like people feel like their emotions like subconsciously or something. But I
hmm
kind of can tell straight away that Ron is like legit 24/7 chilled, and when you look at Raisy, he just seems chilled. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can clearly tell that he's boiling inside. He's just boiling inside of himself. You can see it by mimic of the face, by everything. Like he's getting super tilted. You can
hmm
straight away say, but he never shows it. So now it's like maybe this is the matter of training, maybe that he's trained to just like not blow, because if he's gonna blow out, then he's gonna kind of let it go, right? So
Yeah.
maybe if he like kind of like choke it inside of himself, maybe it's better for him. So we got also such people who are kind of calm, but they still like raging inside. So maybe they not letting it go to like not escalate the feelings or something like that. And then, as we said, we got people like Rafa and Kilson who can like scream and get mad and then straight away go back to the game. And we got also people like Cypher, for example,
Yeah.
who gonna like talk a lot, and it's gonna impact his opponent and himself too. And then his opponent gonna feel bad, and then next day Cypher gonna feel bad that he said two words too much. It's like
hmm
he's my friend, and I know exactly. It's like he's like everybody heard something bad from Cypher. That they should know that it's like not a personal, because it's like he's speaking many times through the emotions, and it's great because he's like an open book. Cypher is like an open book. You straight away see when he's angry. If he has a problem with you, he gonna tell you. He gonna be completely honest with you 100% of the time. And I respect it more than someone like having problem with me and hiding it or talking behind your back or like not telling you, because it creates even more problems, I think.
Yeah. I mean, funny you say that, because me and Cypher, we have the same kind of things. Like, whenever we would practice duels, like, one of us would get so angry that we would just leave the match and be like, "I'm done playing with you," and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play with you again. And then a couple of weeks pass and we carry on playing, and it's like,
Yeah.
but it's okay. It's as long as you understand. And this is why communication is very important, and I think that's exactly what Cypher does really well. He communicates. Like, if he feels that he was in a wrong for doing something, he will tell you, and whether it's gonna be, he will apologize, or he will just say, "Man, look, I had a bad day,
Mm.
whatever." It's fine, as long as I communicate. And you know, I think raging happens in every single game, and I think it's also a little bit healthy to add a little bit spice
Mhm.
to player engagement between each other. I think I think esports would be a little bit boring if there wouldn't be some
Of course, of
controlled
course.
toxicity, controlled toxicity.
There
Not
must be
you
there
know
must be emotions. There's emotions
exactly.
everywhere in football, like people hitting each other, fighting on the field.
Yeah,
Like it's normal. I think we
yeah,
got
but
too little emotions in esports. We need some
I
fights on the
agree.
stage, I think.
I
Maybe
agree.
that will bring some people to watch.
I think what esports really lacks in most games is like face-offs between players or
Yeah,
teams, and I think face-offs would be
more physical
really
contact, like,
awesome. Yeah, but like yeah, and like look, I think just on the subject of like going back to Raisy, I think he's a very interesting player for me in terms of like what is he actually thinking or feeling, because Raisy doesn't really talk a lot about
yeah.
how he feels or how he manages things. And I think one thing that is quite noticeable is when there's a tournament, or even Razy himself sometimes puts like a hard monitor on himself.
Mhm.
You can see that his heartbeat is spiking quite a lot. And like I guess to like
Yeah,
up
like
to
the dude is
150,
sitting
170.
face cold and he's 170 fucking like blood high. Like,
Right. And it's like, where is that coming from? Is
yeah,
that him being stressed? And why is he stressed? Is he getting angry? Is he feeling like, is he feeling uncomfortable? It's like, and it's like, it would be really interesting to understand what he's actually feeling at that moment, because like, we are only here speculating what it could be, but it's like that's why it's so interesting, because you look at him and he seems so just, you know, like a
like he's gonna
stone.
fall asleep.
Yeah, and it's
But
like,
actually, his heart gonna jump out
yeah,
of the t-shirt soon.
and
It's
it's
like
like,
this is
why is
crazy.
that
This is
happening?
yeah,
Yeah,
this is crazy. That you can really barely tell. Only in some moments you can tell that he's like kind of like emotional, because
yeah,
he kind of for a few seconds like lose his face and he's like
mm-hmm,
you see that he got like mad.
yeah,
But for otherwise he's just sitting there like basically not moving, like he's ready to fall asleep, and his heartbeat is like 170.
mm-hmm,
It's crazy. He doesn't
yeah,
show emotions at all. And
no,
Kilsan, you can see everything. You can see every single emotion on him. He's swearing, he's moving, he's all over the place. He's like there, but he still like focuses on the game. This is also
yeah,
crazy. So everybody is different, you see, like everybody reacts differently and everybody have different reasons. As we say, like Cypher is completely different. Rafa, like Kilson can stick in the game. Razy is super like cold face, like blood cold killer, and he still feels some emotions inside, as we see. And like you got different reasons, as we said. If you focus only on one thing, for example, I think why maybe like Zen is like raging is because he actually had to move to Europe from Australia all over the world, like leave everything behind, do nothing else, just play Quake, and then imagine if you're focusing on one thing and you're trying hard and you're giving your best, and then something doesn't go your way, how do you expect to react? To take it
yeah,
chill? Like it's when something is important, there's always emotions to play the role, and
mm-hmm.
and
I
like
mean,
everybody has
yeah,
different reasons, and for everybody is different solution. That's why it's good to work with psychologist, because he needs to find a good way for you, because for everybody is something different.
yeah, and that's what I wanted to say. It's just like everybody needs to find the time to understand themselves and find, if you don't feel like you can fix something, try to find a way to refocus. And I think understanding how to refocus yourself in those situations, that will also help you in real life. If you know, um, for me, it's really weird, and I still don't understand why it's like that. But like outside of the gaming scene, is like I'm like one of the chillest person that you can probably talk to, and it's like,
Um,
why am I so chill in real life? And I deal really well with issues. And if
mhm,
I I even said to to my mom last night, like, we were having a conversation. I was like, look, I take everything with open arms, whether it's going to be something negative, positive,
mhm.
if something bad's going to happen to my life. I take it with open arms because I know it's just part of life, and how it's part of experience. That's what life is: experiencing negative emotions, positive emotions, love, hate, anything. And it's like, why can I not apply that into the gaming? and it's like it's very bizarre relationship between me and duels, because like that for me doesn't happen in team modes. I think of myself as a really good team player because like I keep my emotions in check, and I
Hmm.
always try to focus on helping other people,
Hmm.
because that's what I do in real life as well. I try to help
Hmm.
people as much as I can with anything that I can, and like that's why it translates so well into team modes. But duel is just another like whole different ball, and I think,
Hmm.
and maybe it's wrong of me to say, but like I think some people are made to be duelists, some people are not made to be duelists.
Hmm.
I think it's that simple, and I
Hmm.
think that goes back to what you said. It could be a personality thing,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure if that's something that can be fixed, um, or not. It's just you gotta try and figure it that yourself.
Hmm.
What what presses your buttons. It's that simple.
Yeah, yeah. What I wanted to add in the end, I just wanted to repeat myself that, in my opinion, the best solution to deal with all the nerves, all the choke moments, or all the tilting, it's always gonna be what I said before, like stop caring about winning or losing, focus on how you play. Because it's like not only that two people told me that and it works, but another example, like whenever you see people playing for fun, for example, you tilting Quake, right? What if we go like all of us, like few other players, we're gonna have a beer and we're gonna play Overwatch now for fun? Nobody gonna fucking tilt at all. Like there's
Yeah.
gonna be no single tilt or swear on a voice chat. Why?
Hmm.
Because we don't care if we're gonna win or lose. We just came to play and to have fun and to
Exactly.
to spend some time. So it means that the majority of emotions comes because people care about winning or losing.
Yeah.
That's I am always gonna believe that, and I'm always gonna believe that as soon as you're gonna stop caring about winning or losing, it's gonna definitely like help you with all the bad emotional problems. It must be like this. There's no other way for me to explain, because you are not afraid in game that you're gonna lose timing or you're gonna spam like tribal and it's not gonna hit. You're not thinking about it. You're thinking about winning or losing. That's the biggest problem, because you are competitive and you want to win, and that's why the less you care, the better it is, and it's everywhere in the life. Let's say. I don't know if you're going for a driving test. If you're driving alone and nobody watches you, anything, you're driving like freely. If now you're gonna put like three instructors in your car, and everybody and one will be like, I'm gonna see how you're changing gears and how you're like steering, you know. I'm gonna see how far you are from the right side. I'm gonna look at this and at that. Suddenly you're gonna be driving like this. And you're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to drive as good as you can, or or sometimes you're going over the tree, or something like very tiny, and you're going freely. But now some guy comes and tells you, okay, if you're gonna fall, you need to pay me like 5,000 USD. And then suddenly, some pressure, and you need to do it, and you want to win. You kinda, a bit stressful, and it's not
A
going
little
like
bit.
as easy as it was before. So I
Yeah.
think it all comes to caring about the final results. If you stop caring about the final results, I bet like everything gonna be good. So
Which is,
that's my 5 cents.
it goes back to saying that you are your worst enemy,
Yeah.
and if you put that pressure on yourself, then that pressure can crumble some. Sometimes it won't, and like you said, I agree. I fully agree. It's trying to play and compete and only thinking about the outcome of the match, which is not important at all.
Hmm.
Because you said it. Zed told you, Cooler told you that, and for me it was Rafa that told me a similar thing. Is like, why are you getting mad? Is like, as long as you do your best in the game, why would you be mad at yourself? That's
Hmm.
all you can do. That's how you deal with life and games. Is like, as long as you as long as you do your best, that's all that
Hmm.
matters. Nothing else matters at that point,
Yeah.
because you just have to be, essentially you just have to be proud of what you've done and don't worry about anything else.
Hmm. Exactly. And I think that's a good way to finish this podcast. And I'm super glad that you came, because like we
No,
spoke
thank you.
about it for already a few years, and it's always very interesting to speak with you about the mental side of the game. And I think it's like it's majority of the. I think that's the majority of success. I think you need to be strong mentally to win anything in your life,
Yes,
basically, and you to fight in your life. So I think it's maybe gonna motivate some guys, and maybe you're gonna be keen more to work on yourself, and
exactly.
and I'm really grateful you came to the podcast, and thank you.
No, thank you
That
for
was
inviting me,
great talk.
guys. Really appreciate that.